So a while back, I asked you, the community, my channel community, through a community poll, what do you care about the most for the upcoming Fable? Now, there was multiple options. Obviously, you could have written what you felt, but everybody kind of voted within that poll. But before we really break that down, I want to quickly address some news that I didn't cover on a separate video. I was kind of hoping we would get more Fable news so that I can make a bigger video, because I didn't want to just hype everybody up when we weren't going to see the game for another 2 years. But that's besides the point. I want to quickly talk about this news. Ryan Clark, a producer over for Baldur's Gate 3, has joined the team for Playground Games. Now you're quickly saying to yourself, oh my God, this is great news. I want to kind of tell you to slow down a little bit. Here's why. Because there's two ways to take this. You could either say, whoa, you know, Ryan Clark's coming in, the game's almost done. Maybe he's coming in to kind of, you know, change things. But if that's the case, then is he going to change the whole game? Is he just going to work on DLC? What does it really mean? We really don't know. So that's why I'm asking that question, right? I want you to slow down. And then the second possibility is the game is nowhere near done. And they brought him in now because, hey, you know, he has plenty of time to actually affect the changes in the game, to actually affect the game's development. So maybe we're not seeing the game for another 4 years. So slow your boats. You know, this is huge news. This is good news overall, but don't get too excited yet because we don't know when this game is coming. And the fact that we are in this like information drought is pretty bad. Now, that being said, I do want to say, I do think we're going to see more trailers or maybe another trailer during the Game Awards in December, but I don't see a release date coming soon. In this poll, I asked, what is your biggest wish for the Fable reboot? And I gave 5 options. The first one is character customization. The second being split screen co-op. The third is lots of mini games, which if you haven't played the Fable games, there is mini games. The fourth one being simulation type gameplay. Kind of want to emphasize the simulation type gameplay that was present in Fable 3, such as the housing, you know, renting, you know, different kind of owning businesses, stuff like that. And number 4 is PvP. Now, PvP could mean a lot of things, but I wanted to kind of include another multiplayer option that isn't co-op. After presenting these options, we want to take a look back and look at what you guys voted on. A lot of you are really wanting character customization. About 48% of the people that took a vote in this poll voted for character customization. Now, I can interpret this 2 ways. One, you saw the trailer and were like, oh my God, please let us customize our character, which is fair. Or you say, hey, you know, we could do this in the previous games. This is an expectation I have for this upcoming game. So hopefully I can change my character, which I actually think is I think I agree with that. I agree with both of them and I both think they're fair. But I think that that's one that second point is what I want to emphasize more. Customization has been a huge part of the Fable games, especially Fable 3. And I hope they expand that rather than trying to consolidate and limit it for this reboot, because this is a chance to do something new. But I also hope that they learn from the previous games. The second thing is split screen co-op. I think with the co-op features that were present in Fable 3, as well as, you know, I mean, I guess the unreleased Fable games, the idea is we are now living in an age where multiplayer or co-op is such a pivotal key in a lot of games. Now, that being said, it doesn't need to be there, but I do think that having split screen co-op really makes the game feel more alive, especially when you can play it online. If that's what they include, if they do include an online co-op, I think allowing for a co-op split screen will really allow someone to who may not have bought the game to buy the game, right? I personally, if I want to play my roommates or have friends over, I don't have to worry about setting up 2 Xboxes. And then they can, you know, through the cloud, they can actually continue the game somewhere else. I just think there's so many possibilities that present themselves through split screen co-op that, you know, I'm not going to go all over it, but it's split screen co-op. It's really something I don't need to really explain too much. The third one is lots of mini games. About 7% voted for this. And I think this is really interesting because I was hoping this would be higher, but maybe I'm one of the few minorities, right? Of the Fable community. I know a lot of people play a lot of these like fantasy RPGs, you know, one time through, maybe the second time to play an evil playthrough, or play the good time, play evil first and play good. You know, so there's limited play time and limited expectation when it comes to these games. right? So that a lot of players don't linger on that game after they complete the story, which I do. And so I love these mini games. Granted, you could cheese the mini games, but that's besides the point, right? The idea is I thought this would be much higher, but I do understand why. But I still want a lot of mini games. So I completely see it there. 22% said simulation type gameplay. Now, I wonder if this is because there's a lack of simulation type gameplay in fantasy RPGs or just RPGs in general, right? I think, you know, I always like highlighting Fable 3, and a lot of people like shitting on Fable 3, but Fable 3 did a lot of things that most games don't do and haven't done for a very long time. It was very much ahead of its time. People are just really hard on it, I think, at the time. But simulation type gameplay, I would love more of that, and I would love that they expand on that. Now, I don't want to say that they should sacrifice the story to focus a lot of time on that type of developing that type of gameplay, but maybe if they added it later on, I would be completely content. But I really hope they don't just completely scrap it, because I think there's just so much value in that type of gameplay. And if you're wondering, what are you really talking about? Well, I'm talking about the housing system, you know, being able to buy businesses and like charge rent, being able to develop different areas, you know, create taxes, stuff like that. You know, being able to, this is your kingdom now. You are, you know, you're in charge, or be able to in some way impact the environment around you on a more repetitive or, you know, consistent basis, something you can go to and change, right? I think the idea is not necessarily give me like something I can grind, but more something I can consistently do to change my environment. The last one is 4% PvP. I actually think this is much higher than I expected. I was expecting nobody to put that, and I actually really expected a lot of people to write comments and be like, why would you put PvP in a Fable game? How dare you, right? I really thought that was going to be the case, but thank goodness nobody flamed me for putting that option there. But I think 4% really says a lot. And I think maybe if they do, you know, let's say they don't go with co-op, but they say, hey, you know what? We're going to do multiplayer. I wouldn't be against PvP. I think whatever adds longevity to the game that isn't just story DLCs. Because honestly, listen, I love me some story DLCs. I love them, but there's just so much unknown about this reboot and what direction they're going to pick and what they're going to do and how they're going to, you know, approach even the things that they you know, that we know they have, right? There's just so much up in the air, right? And so if multiplayer is a thing, I really hope there's PvP, but it doesn't need to be there. But I hope it is, because that's more value. But I want to kind of end this video, and I'm giving you, you know, I'm going to redo this poll. I'm going to throw it back up as I'm releasing this video. So if you're seeing this and you made it this far, the poll is back up again on my community tab. So go over to click to my channel if you can see the latest community tab. Vote, get your vote in. It's going to be the same options. It's not going to be anything different. So if you say, hey, character customization was important back then, but maybe it's not important now after watching this video, then yeah, let's, you know, change your answers. I just want to give people, I want to consistently see what everybody feels. But I want to say this too. I know I'm rambling because I love this game so much and I wish we had more news on it. I want to end this video saying, listen, Playground Games does multiplayer right, does co-op right in the games that they've done. Obviously it's been racing games, but they understand the core. Now the story of Forza, for example, Horizon, on the latest one, it was pretty bad, pretty cringe, to be honest. But that I blame more of like Xbox being like, I hate using the word woke, but like not, they were being woke, but not self-aware, right? Because if you like, as someone who grew up with a Mexican background and lived in Mexico for a long time, hearing that kind of dialogue and story was super cringe. But at the same time, I understand that maybe this game is not meant for somebody like me who's actually from there, right? It's meant for somebody who has no exposure to it. So that's what I'm saying. So there's a little concern about that, but at the core of the game, I genuinely believe they understand how to make fans of a specific game or genre IP happy. And I think that's why they brought in Ryan Clark, a producer for Baldur's Gate 3. Maybe that, or just to make sure that we all shut up, right? We'll stop complaining when we put that news. But either way, Is this a hill I'm gonna die on? We'll see. Stay tuned for all Fable news. I'm gonna keep it locked in. Look, I'm not one of those, I've been covering this game for a long time and I make tutorials on Fable. So don't worry, I'm actually here for the Fable. And if you want Fable news, check me out. Anyway, bye-bye. Check you on the next one. Bye. I always say bye so many times.